molecule.
No, I don't think our galaxy is a molecule.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it can be related to.
Now, there are different sizes of things, of course, and there are different scales in the universe. But when we go down into the microcosm, we find different things and different realities than the larger structure of the universe. They're not just similar, okay? You can make analogies between, let's say, one thing like a solar system and something else, but that's dangerous to do. Everything starts from measurements that we make on Earth in experiments, and that's what we call Science 101. Measurements are primary. Theories about the measurements are secondary.
We have a few moments left. I want to take some more calls before we're off, but give us a quick synopsis of the Joseph Papp gas engine, the noble gas engine,
oh, yes.
spelled P-A-P-P.
One of the most fascinating stories in the history of new energy. Joseph Papp was a Hungarian who came to Canada first, and then he made his way to the United States. He was a rather eccentric man, but he made an engine using an actual gasoline engine that was retrofit. No gasoline system was used in it. No cooling system was used. He claimed that he was using noble gases, that is, the gases neon, krypton, xenon, helium, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And that he made mixtures of it and treated them specially and put them in the engine and made the engine work. Now, the interesting thing about this is the engine was demonstrated on November 18th, 1968 in Gardena, California, at the company Environetics that was then helping him. And Nobel laureate from Caltech, Richard Feynman, a wonderful physicist, but then very skeptical of this. He knew in advance, so to speak, according to a story he wrote later, that Papp's engine had to be garbage. Okay, it must have been fraud.
So he was another debunker.
He was a debunker. So he came to the meeting, and we have told this in elaborate, excruciating detail in issue 51 of our magazine, which I urge those who are curious to read in subsequent coverage. But in essence, he interfered with the demonstration of the working engine. There were about 35 to 70 people present, and the engine exploded, okay? Feynman yelled out, "This is a goddamn hoax," that is before the explosion. Interfered with the control system, evidently. The engine did explode. Later, Feynman suggested that the reason it exploded, and killed one person, by the way, okay, an engineer from the Mattel Toy Corporation, severely injured two other people, and, caused a great stir. It was headline news and so forth for a while. Feynman later said that he thought that Papp had blown up his own engine with surreptitious explosives within the engine, okay, to prevent it from being tested. Okay, this was his theory. Now, here's the problem with that theory. Later on, there was a lawsuit, and insurance companies were involved, and Caltech settled with this company, Environetics, that was helping Papp. Now, if there was evidence of real explosives that any panel had found, okay, in the investigation, would Caltech have given one red cent to anybody? Would the insurance company have?
No.
So there are two possibilities here. Either the explosion was real from an anomalous physics phenomena, which I personally believe it was, okay, or some agency in that time of 1968 was completely incompetent in investigating a situation and not determining whether or not there was dynamite or not nitroglycerin in that device. Subsequently, by the way, other people, more recently, have examined and tried to resurrect the Papp process and have actually succeeded in making explosions in noble gases. Noble gases, as many people listening know who know basic chemistry, are not supposed to react in any significant way. There are some reactions they undergo, but certainly you're not supposed to put electricity into noble gases and get a huge amount of extra power.
Exactly, and no exhaust came from this.
No exhaust, and the engine ran fairly cool. It was tested with an independent dynamometer test and was shown to run at 100 horsepower. Indeed, Papp was a very paranoid man, and he did, unfortunately, take the precise mixing details and so forth, and and processing details to the grave with him. But the good news is that excellent scientists who have their heads screwed on are now in the process of resurrecting it. There's a good chance that it will be resurrected, in which case it would be a wonderful, possibly very dangerous, though, technology. It must be investigated.
I hate to be in a car, though, and have that engine blow up on you.
Well, absolutely. And by the way, about 3 weeks or so before that terrible tragedy in Gardena, they went out to the desert with a cannon, okay, which is part of it's described in one of the three patents. This cannon was particularly I call it a cannon. It was a very thick-walled steel tube, and naval personnel from the local area, working with a TRW engineer who's still alive today, who knows a lot about this, sealed that tube so that Pap could not adulterate it with any secret explosives, okay? They took it into the desert, Pap injected it with his gases, and then he attached electricity to it, to the filaments and what have you, and it detonated with a horrendous explosion, blowing up the concrete that was surrounding it and making the steel look like a tulip afterwards. And by the way, just in the last couple of weeks, we received from a party that shall remain nameless, but in any event, we received a DVD which had the tape of that explosion, not the Gardena explosion that killed, but the one in the desert, and we are now going to distribute it all over the world for $15, and anyone who wants to see it can see the 9.5-minute stretch where Pap is putting the gas into the U.S. Navy sealed chamber, and then the thing blows up. Of course, no DVD will ever prove anything.
No.
Clearly. No. But this definitely shows Pap. We know what he looked like. It shows him putting the gases in from flasks. It shows the consequences. And we believe that as long as there were no illicit explosives put in there, which seems to be the case due to the Navy precautions, clearly the process was quite anomalous.
All right, we are out of time, Eugene. I wanted to get that story in because it's a fascinating story.
Thank you.
Your website, of course, infinite-energy.com. And the magazine is how much again?
It's $29.95 for 6 issues a year, or $49.95 if you're other than in North America.
All right. You do let us know if anybody develops anything, won't you?
Absolutely. Just watch our website.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, George.